All right, well, we're recording. I'm assuming it's 11. Let's go live. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Nice to digitally see you or not see you. Joe Morrison from the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance here, and we've been doing these since October. Today, we're focused on resources that small businesses can use, and it's particularly timely because turns out the end of March is the deadline for the payroll protection program applications. This is a forgivable loan offered by the Small Business Administration. We have with us today Jamie Forsyth, who is the Small Business Development Center counselor in Kitsap, and we work with her closely. She is available for no cost, free business advising. And we're going to turn things over to her in a second. She's going to talk about PPP and the other SBA resources that are out there. A plug for the SBDC, you can find all the events that they hold right there on that lovely link, wsbdc.ecenterdirect.com/events. And, you know, information continues to roll out regularly. You'll see another website in front of you, smallbizhelpwa.com. This website attempts to compile everything and sort of make it a one-stop shop for digital information, because there are other grants that are out there as well and other forms of support. And as those forms of support come online, we'll talk this much about it today. PPP is this much, other grants are this much, but that's where you can find details. Visit that website frequently. Let's see, what else do we have? Startup Washington, if you're starting a business, that's a very good option. There are other languages where you can find coronavirus recovery options, and that is at the SBA link on the right. We will put some of these links in the chat. I don't think they're live on the PowerPoint, so we'll make sure to get some of the links in the chat. All right, let's see. Without further ado, let's turn things over to our partner in economic development from Western Washington University, Jamie Forsyth. Thanks, Jamie.
All right, thanks, Joe. I am going to share my screen. And for those of you that had to weather my technical difficulties at the Silverdale Chamber, I am proud to hopefully have you see this with without having to weather the difficulties I had before. So anyway, so today I'm just going to do in a little bit of a unique order. I'm going to start with the pandemic updates first, because I know people are really anxious about that, and then go into sort of how we've been supporting businesses and how we might support you in the future. So pandemic relief opportunities. I first wanted to mention the targeted EIDL grant. And for those of you that received $0 to less than $10,000 from an EIDL advance, known as a grant also, last year, you may be eligible for the difference between what you received last year to $10,000. And there's some filters, some pretty significant filters on that. And the biggest one is that you have to be in a low income area according to the map they're using. And what I would say to anybody is go and look in your junk mail, look back through your email, find that email, and just apply, because maps have changed. And the map that I was told was being used, it showed Fjord Drive in Poulsbo as a low income area. So just making that point that don't assume you're not in a low income area, because Front Street in downtown Poulsbo and down all the way down Fjord Drive was a low income area. So surprise, surprise. And again, if something changes behind the scenes, you want to have applied. So and a nice little aside here from the Silverdale Chamber, when I said this, somebody live on the meeting went and checked their junk mail and found the email from 2 weeks earlier in their junk mail, and found out they were getting 9,000 tax-free dollars because they were told to go check their junk mail, and they were in a low-income area. So so that's a critical thing. If you know somebody that you can spread the word, because, a lot of people, if they're not expecting this email, they don't know to go and check. And that's the biggest thing right now. People don't know that that email is potentially worth actually a full $10,000. So again, tell your friends, share it with everybody, if they were part of that EIDL advance, to go check their email and fill out the application. Let the SBA tell you that you don't qualify. Don't decide for yourself. The EIDL, the long-term loan that you have to pay back, is available till December 31st. Some people who didn't take it last year, it's still available all through this year. So that's an option for you. The employee retention tax credit, that's just quite a little boondoggle if it works for you. And it's retroactive to last year. And hopefully your CPA is the one that would be managing, taking care of this for you, because it's a little bit, there's a little bit to it, but basically it's a tax credit. And so for 2020, you could get up to $5,000 per employee on qualified salary. And then for the first 2 quarters of 2021, you can get up to $7,000 per $10,000 of qualified salary, eligible salary. And so that would be a total of $14,000 in the first half of 2021 and $5,000 from 2020. So that's huge. The thing was, last year, you could not get the employee retention tax credit if you had a PPP. And so, a lot of people didn't know that changed with the latest stimulus package. So again, you can always come to me if you have questions on that. You can come to me, you can ask questions at the end of this, or, come to me later. SBA loans, again, if you're, especially if you're buying a business or, redoing your interior or something, the SBA loans right now, you can get 6 months of debt relief, meaning that those 6 months are paid for by the federal government. You'll never see them again. They're wiped off the calendar. And if you already got 6 months last year, you'll get another 3 months this year. And if you're in certain targeted industries, you can get another 5 months on top of that. So there's just amazing options right now. I mean, that's a huge amount. Like, somebody was paying there's a limit, there's a top limit. It can't be more than, I think it was $9,000 a month. But think about that times 6 or maybe times 14. And that's been huge, for small businesses. 504 and 7As, if you don't know, are the most typical loans, that small business owners use to buy or refurbish, their business. So the Shuttered Venue Grant, I just heard again from our SBA regional director that we still don't have a date. And when that's going live, if that's something you've been waiting for, just really reach out to me, and I want to make sure I can keep you in the loop on that. So this one got a slide of its own because there's so much going on with the Paycheck Protection Plan loans. So the big thing is, and the reason time is of the essence right now, is if you are a first timer, you haven't gotten one before, and this is kind of wonky because they created this exclusive 2-week period where only you can apply. And yet the 2-week period started at the end of February, but the interim final rules to make this happened yesterday. So you only have until Tuesday, March 9th at 2 p.m., which the reason that's 2 p.m. is because it's 5 p.m. Eastern time, to get this in. And so when I've talked to lenders this week, what they said they were doing, at least the ones I talked to, was that they've already been, once they heard this was going to happen, they've already been teeing up these applications and just holding on to them until this interim final rule was passed, such that when they send the applications in now, you have a very advantageous new special rule for you. So basically, you get to use your adjusted gross income instead of net profit. And I'll give you an example of what that means. And a startup business I worked with, in 2019. They had a good revenue stream in 2019, but it was completely offset by all their investments in their business, to start it. And so wanting to have the lowest income possible for income tax reasons, you take all those deductions and you end up with like a, zero in the net profit. And that's what you had to use to calculate your PPP. And so for this short time until March 9th at 2 p.m., you can now apply for your first PPP using your adjusted gross income instead, before you take all those deductions. So it could be, a big win for somebody that just, wasn't able to, didn't have any income to get a PPP before. Again, call me. I'm taking phone calls as fast as I can if you have questions about that. I've had questions too, people still saying, I don't even know where to start. And I say, well, you start wherever you have your business checking account. And if you don't have a business checking account, start wherever your personal, banking is. But what I would totally recommend is going to one of our local banks. People who are going to Wells Fargo, Bank of America, whatever, they're not finding people they can talk to. They're not finding that they get quick service that way. And if you are people that find it easier because you're working with Square and Square sent you an email about this, well, they're called a fintech. And there's all these fintechs that are basically online people that are processing these PPPs, but also know that they can sell your loan to anyone they want to. And then what I've heard from clients is that when they have to negotiate something or get in touch with that, first of all, they find out they had no idea that they weren't just going to contact Square or Intuit or whoever, but they have to find out where their loan was sold and then figure out a way to contact those people. And that's been incredibly distressing, for people. So I would say, again, your local banks have just been really rock stars in helping all of you business owners get PPPs. And if it's your first time, really, this is, get in touch today with them. And at this point, because I have had people assure me that they were, a sole proprietor or whatever, and they weren't allowed to get one. Well, I'm here to assure you, almost every legal business entity is eligible. And the only one, like off the top of my head, that's a small business is cannabis, because it's not legal at the federal level. So sorry. Not to say that, well, yeah, it's all federal money because it's passed through the state and counties and stuff. So that's all federal. And sorry about that. But the only other ones are businesses that are so big, they just don't really register, with us in Kitsap County. So I wouldn't worry about it. But I just, again, really this March 9th, if you can get in on this, this would be great for you. Again, as Joe said, ends for everyone at the end of this month. Another thing I wanted to bring up, because I've had a number of people, and it's really, I feel awful for them that they have not quite figured out how to use PPP and unemployment appropriately. And they've ended up with having PPP funds sitting in a bank that they didn't use for payroll, and they were on unemployment, for a period of time when their business had to be shut down, last year. But I just want to, because in case this happens again, I just want to say that there's strategies to manage unemployment and in this case, PPP. And I'll just give you an example, because people are using their second draw PPP now too. And so there's something called shared work, for one thing. And I just want to say this is probably the most underused, wonderful program through unemployment. But what it basically says is that instead of being fully on unemployment, you can be 10 to 50% on unemployment, and the other part of it is paid for, shared with the employer. So the employer would be paying 50 to 90% of the employee's wages, and so there's that balance going back and forth. But what happened last year that was really cool was that because they were technically on unemployment, even though they might be getting 90% of their typical wages from their employer, they got that $600 a week bump, for 12 weeks, added on to their salaries. And now I think it's a $300 a week bump for, a period of time. But so there's some ways that made it just really eased the way, for employers to negotiate this terrible time. The other thing is, with PPP and unemployment, if you're fully on unemployment, you can't double dip. You can't be on unemployment and be paying yourself through PPP. But the PPP requirements just say that you have to, if you're using it for payroll, you have to pay yourself at least once a month. So if you're on unemployment, you can just every week, you report no work, no work, no work, and on 1 week a month report yes work, and you report your the salary that you paid yourself from the PPP. So for the other weeks of the month, you're on unemployment. Again, there just has to be a clear distinction between weeks you were on unemployment and weeks you were on PPP. Because I did have a client who she didn't, know how to manage those two things. So she is going to have to pay back all of her PPP that she can't use for the 40% of eligible expenses other than payroll. And it's just, it's just unfortunate. But I just want to let people know, even if you don't remember the details on this, just call me, if you're in a situation, where your staff or you don't have full employment, to look at what your options are here. PPP and the employee retention tax credit. The thing with that is that any salary paid with the PPP is not eligible for the employee retention tax credit. And so there's strategies with that too, in terms of using the full 40% to pay for other eligible expenses. So it doesn't reduce the salary that's eligible for the ERTC. And again, if that's like, talk to your CPA and make sure that they're, taking full advantage of it, because it is complicated. So I won't go into all the details here. It doesn't apply to everybody, but it's a huge opportunity if it does apply. Loan forgiveness, you can, especially if you have under $150,000, go ahead and apply for forgiveness now if you believe you have all your ducks in a row and will get 100% full forgiveness. It used to be too last year, you were, the amount of your idle advance, you took it, it reduced the level of forgiveness for your loan. That's gone now, it's just gone. Somebody read me a form today that they were reading, and I said, I don't care what it says about the idle advance, don't factor it in, on your, when you're applying for forgiveness. I don't know if the SBA updated that form or not. But anyway, the only reason, because you have 10 months at the end of your PPP period, you have 10 months to apply for forgiveness. So there's no hurry right now. But if you aren't getting full forgiveness for any reason, you might want to wait to apply for forgiveness in case something changes, that makes it easier. Like what if, you apply now and only get 40% forgiven because you didn't use it on payroll. And then a month from now, somebody says, well, we don't want anyone to lose out. As long as you can use 100% of non-payroll eligible expenses. So again, if you aren't getting full forgiveness, don't be in any hurry, to apply, for forgiveness. And so with that, I'm going to just make sure what time we have. Okay. I am going to pivot myself here and just again, like, I'm not going to dwell on this because I know there's still a lot of people who, well, probably a lot of people at this point think like, I'm just somebody that answers COVID questions. So just want to go back to the fact that we actually, are here through our network throughout the country. And, the one that I collaborate with in Washington State, we're just here to support businesses in whatever way we can. And so just, a little more on the specifics. It is no cost. It's confidential. The only reason you will see that we connect the SBDC with clients, in a public way is because they've signed a release for us to do that. And we appreciate that. We at the Washington Small Business Development Centers, we collaborate with each other as needed. And I'll give you an example. If you're going to want to export something, yes, I read the manual and I took the export test and passed it fairly. But We actually have people, for example, that all they do is specialize in helping businesses export. So I bring in that person, to co-advise and work with you on that, or and we might do it sometimes just because there's a lot of work we need to do, and sometimes we have an advisor who has less work in their geographic area, and they'll come down and pitch in. So it's a great collaboration. So you're never dependent on just one person's brain. In the case of the one person Kitsap SBDC, and again, just in terms of why you would come to me is, it's just any version of the why, how, what, where, and sometimes it's really just like a 5-minute phone call, and that's all you need. And other times you come thinking it's a 5-minute phone call, and it ends up realizing that I can do a lot more for you than you realized, and so you become a long-term client, which is great. I'm just happy to. I'm just happy to stop my mouse here. But I'm just happy to, if you have a question, just call or email, and I'll let you know if it seems like we should sign you up and something I have to dig into more and get back to you. We're partners. SBA is our main funder. We aren't the SBA, but we are definitely the boots on the ground for anything related to the SBA. And so just again, to sort of, because I know, again, it's people are surprised at what we can do for them, with the SBDC. So the big one, of course, right now, I mean, this is just sort of a client snapshot, because otherwise it's just like a list of all these things. But this is kind of what we're seeing most of right now is, in the SBDC. And of course, the first thing is just people trying to stay alive. The other thing that's heartening is buying and selling, people buying and selling. And we can do a lot for those kind of people. I'll just give you one example. Someone wanted to buy a restaurant. They were very excited. They had been given a price. They thought the people were going to retire, and this family was going to come and buy the restaurant. All they wanted me for was to just ask for a couple of referrals for insurance or something. But we ended up like talking about buying the restaurant because when we looked at the agreements they had in place and stuff, it turns out that they weren't actually buying a restaurant. They were buying all sorts of used equipment that had depreciated, and food they wouldn't be able to use, and walking into like a really not very favorable lease situation. And we were able to do an informal valuation for them, and come back and put the numbers in front of them and talk through it, and they ended up just deciding that that wasn't the right opportunity for them, and there's going to be a lot of new faces in restaurants and all sorts of eateries and stuff, because the people that didn't make it or just decided it was the right time to move on to something else or retire. And so there's going to be a lot of other opportunities. So so it's something, again, if you're thinking about doing something like that, putting in, your life savings, into a business, we're happy to help you walk through it and either give you the assurance that, this makes sense in all sorts of different ways, or just say that maybe this isn't the right opportunity for you. You can do whatever you want, but we're happy to walk through that process with you. Pandemic pivots, for a lot of businesses, that was about going online in one way or the other. And restaurants are a perfect example. And I will say, I'm happy to talk to anybody. I've been working a lot with trying to just sort of put my finger on all the different ways, all the different apps people are using to go online, and all the different user experiences, from bad to good, and how people have understood how to make that transition, even from looking at their menus and paring down or changing their menus. And I'm happy to walk through that process. I can see, again, that I would love a lot of people to come in and ask for that help, because it helps me, see what their experience is. And, and I've been trying to I've been doing real and fake orders everywhere I can to see what is my customer experience and what app are they using. And I've got a whole spreadsheet on that kind of stuff. So, another thing I just want to point out, and they're not a client, so I can say their name, Red Plantation, is an example of somebody, they're just, jumped in and did a great job and just started doing these online markets on Thursdays at 5. And, with a cell phone, and a few people helping and selling things at this little kind of upcycling vintage store in Paulsbo. And I'm just wondering if they're doing better business, online, than they did, before COVID. And again, it wasn't about anyone having any special expertise, but just jumping in and trying it. And obviously you get better as you do it. But for anybody trying to figure out how to make that pivot, I'm happy to, walk through that with you as well. And then we're still getting a bunch of businesses doing some really cool things, and like baby boomers who are wanting to figure out how they can sell their business to their employees, or just, having some new technology to bring onto the market and walking through, helping them develop a pitch deck to investors, and all sorts of fun stuff like that. Startups, interestingly, there are some wonderful people a lot of people who are, for various reasons, deciding that this is the time when they're going to start their own business. And it runs the gamut from people who don't need much from me to people who are still in the dreaming phase and would be good to sit down and just talk through what the potential is of you getting where you want to go at this time, or maybe taking a longer path. And for that reason, there's so many of them. And I love it, that these people have all these ideas. And what I will say too, as an entrepreneur, is that, entrepreneurs go through a lot of failures, before they hit the successful one. And so it's no shame at all. And I would like to help people fail quickly if this isn't, the right idea for you, so you can move on and not spend too much time and energy on the one that's not the right one for you. And for that reason, I just thought I'd just end up with, if you're someone out there or know someone out there that's thinking of doing a startup, this is the first filter, that I would share with people, to take a really good look in the mirror and say, is this really the way forward for you? And the first thing is, I can stop people in their tracks just by asking that first question. What problem are you solving? And that stumps a lot of people. But again, if you can answer all of these 5 questions in a very positive manner, you've probably done your homework, know what you're doing, and are on the path, to starting, some wonderful new startup. And if you can't, again, I can help you work through, what's the hurdle, to overcome there. But I am seeing, I would say probably maybe even more than half of the people that come to me and say, I'm going to do this business, there's hurdles there that just can't be overcome right now. And, so again, this is what we use at the SBDC, some form of this. I mean, every advisor, I think, probably has their favorite list of these type of questions to say, are you still kind of noodling on some ideas, or are you really ready to move forward? So this is a lot of, I'm surprised at how much of this I'm working on with just entrepreneurs to say, are you ready to go, or not quite? So anyway, that's all I have today. So I'm happy to answer questions. And again, I just want to make sure I thank our local funders here that make this possible: Kitsap Bank, City of Paulsbo, First Federal, and Kitsap Credit Union, for making SBDC possible.
Okay, Jamie, are you ready for all of the questions?
Should I stop sharing or leave this up?
I think I would leave it up for a minute just so folks can get your information down. I did also put it in the chat. So the first question is from Julie. She says, we applied for the EIDL targeted grant. When should we see something? We received the email and we applied, but haven't heard anything. Or where do we check?
You can't check. I think what happened is, I think for PPP, I mean, the fact that you sent it, you're good to go, because for that targeted idle, you actually have up to the end of the year. And I think they're really focused right now on the PPP. And they put a lot of safeguards into the PPP to prevent fraud that they had to deal with all of last year. So I think they're just taking things in the order, they've got their punch list. And we've got that, for example, the shuttered venue operators grant, and we don't even know when that's going live yet. So you're in the queue. That's all I can say. You filled it out, which is great. And I hope you're I hate to say this, I hope you're in a low income area for the purpose of this.
Yeah, for the purpose of this.
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of related to that, when you were talking about check your junk mail in case you got, the extra grant, around what dates were those emails sent regarding that?
They were sent in February, and I'm sorry, I don't have an exact time frame, because I think they started in early February, but I think if you started on February 1st, you'd be good. If I can figure that out, I'll let you know, but I don't know that anyone knew. They were just processing them and sending them. But I didn't mention this, but this is just so fun, I have to say it. So when I said this at the Silverdale Chamber, somebody on the webinar checked their junk mail and posted in the chat that that they got. Oh, did I already say that? The $9,000?
Oh, you said it to me yesterday, but
Oh, okay. Yeah. And so because they were on the webinar, they checked their junk mail, found it, and they're getting 9,000 tax-free dollars.
So you helped them find $9,000.
Yes. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Note to self: if you think you qualify, you should check your junk mail. This is from Matt, and his question was, clarify using the ER tax credit in conjunction with the PPP.
Okay. The only thing about the employee retention tax credit is that any payroll that was paid with the PPP is excluded from your calculations on how much of a tax credit you can get. And so, if you had an employee that had last year that had $10,000 worth of eligible salary, but 5,000 of it was paid with a PPP, you only have $5,000 worth of eligible salary, which means that 50% for last year, you would get a $2,500 tax credit.
Cool. Okay, here's the question of the day. How do you get into a lender before March 9th deadline?
You would go to one of our, well, first of all, I mean, again, ideally, you're already have a business account with one of our local lenders. And mostly, so right now, they actually can't submit any other PPP loans right now, except for you people, that are qualifying, under this short-term opportunity. So I note on my slide, there are several amongst others, but like Columbia, Liberty Bank, I would go to a local lender. Note that you may be required to open a business account in order for them to do that. But what I would say is, if it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to help you, then just move on to the next bank. And, there's somebody who's going to be able to help you. And again, it might mean that you have to open an account, but I would stay away from the fintechs right now, just because I know too many people that are in a bind because something went awry and they can't correct it with someone they can't reach.
Could you provide a bit more detail on what a fintech is for those that may not be sure?
It's anything you don't recognize as a local, as a bank or credit union, so it's like Square, Intuit. I just learned yesterday there's something called biz2credit.com, and they sold the loans to something called Etria Ventures LLC. So just saying, if it's a recognizable bank or credit union, that's who you want to go to. And just from experience that my clients have shared, they have not had good service or good turnaround time with the big banks.
Yeah, I know that. I sent one of our clients to you because they started with a fintech. There's a problem and they cannot get any assistance.
Mhm.
And
That's
so,
happened to more than one client. So even like people say, oh, well, I use Square, credit card processing. It's up to you. but just saying that they were allowed to sell these PPP loans. So they may not own it by the time you're trying to get forgiveness or have to deal with it. So that's the only thing, they are not necessarily keeping your loan once you get it through them. They're basically a pass through.
Jamie, why don't you turn off share screen now so people can have FaceTime with you? And I just want to jump in here, that there are some comments in chat about, let's see, Kitsap Credit Union says that they are available and ready to help. There were a couple of others, but I've just lost the chat.
Great. Well, yeah, that's wonderful. Like our local, I mean, I know I didn't list all of our local banks, but they've just been rock stars. So, the first thing is, if you can call someone and talk to them, that's a good reference point, that, they can, they'll let you know if they can help you out or not.
yeah, and we did request if there are any lending institutions, local folks on the webinar today, please post your info in chat. As
First Security, that's another one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking of all the people who have called me, or I've called them, but I know I'm not listing all of them. So I apologize for that, but that's my best advice on that one.
Right. And so just so we can keep the questions separate from the comments, if you have a question, it needs to go under Q&A or it may get lost in the comments, because I'm trying to go back and forth and it's really a fun time. Let's see. So someone says, I requested PPP for the first round, but they don't say if they were successful. Can I still apply for this new round?
PPP for the first, well, I mean, if we're talking 2020, that was so long ago. You know what, you might want to just reach out to me, because my question, and I knew the answer at some point, but if you were denied the first time, does that mean you're on a first draw? If you didn't get one the first time, just, you're going to apply again under the first draw if you didn't get one before.
So this special short period would apply to them if they were not successful.
Yes, and if any lender wants to jump out and correct me, I will humble myself on that one, but I'm pretty sure, and I don't know, but here's the thing, like, I don't know why they were denied, the first time. And it could be because they had no qualifying income, which they would under this new rule, hopefully, or they're cannabis, sorry guys. But whatever, unless there's some, because they've really loosened it, and it might have been something in your past, again, they've loosened rules. So for whatever reason, you were denied last year, definitely apply again. And you would be a first time because you haven't gotten one yet.
Okay. Do they only use your 2019 numbers?
Well, here's the thing. If you did better in 2020 than 2019, I'm not sure that the Paycheck Protection Plan is intended for you. So because again, it's because you lost income in 2020 that this program is for you. So, everybody I've been working with is using, 2019 because that was a better year than 2020. And if it's 2020, if you can use 2020 and they don't prevent you from doing that, go ahead and do it. Yeah, I just don't know like that the Paycheck Protection Plan was intended for you.
Okay. So here's a gentleman, his wife has a business in Port Orchard. She applied through a fintech. Her P&L for 2020 on her tax was $245 after gross revenue and expenses. It's the second time in the last 10 months to be denied. But I think you already answered this by saying that this 2-week period is a different calculation method, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she should try during this period.
Yeah, and again, like sometimes when you're getting sometimes I don't know if you're giving me all the information I need to answer it correctly. So again, you can contact me. But what we tell people too is, if in doubt, apply honestly. And until somebody tells you you're out of luck, just carry on, because I can't always, in these Q&As too, maybe I don't necessarily know everything I need to know about it, but just apply.
Yes, everything has a disclaimer until Jamie can get more details. How's that?
Or the SBA maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. So can a sole prop owner receive PPP?
Yes, as of last year actually, but unfortunately a lot of sole props, gig workers, independent contractors didn't get that word. Yes, you can.
Okay, so here's a fun one. So for the targeted advance, if your business moved into a low income area, but last year you were in a middle class area, do they go by the zip code of the original app or your current location?
You know what? I'm not sure. I mean, my brain isn't clicking on that one, but I think here again, I would say my worry would be that if you fill out a different, wait, sorry, was that PPP or idle?
Mhm.
No.
No, idle.
Oh, idle. Okay. Yeah. If you fill out a different address, I'm not sure what's going to kick you out of the system, to be honest. So you might want to reach out to me, because again, you've got a long time to respond to that. And I can go to the SBA contacts and just check it out. One interesting one was somebody came to me and said, I applied with a NAICS code, and that's the industry code that your business is assigned, last year, not knowing it would make a difference. But this year, I can use a 3.5 multiplier if I have a restaurant, NAICS code. And can I change that now? Because I really am also, a bakery and a restaurant. And so fortunately, there was good news for this person, because I actually went and looked up on the state and saw that they actually had registered their business with both NAICS codes. And then I verified as well that, I mean, they're legit. They registered their business using 2 NAICS codes. So now they could use the other one and get a better deal. So again, there's unique situations. And a lot of times I just have to get an opinion from the SBA, but I can help anyway.
Cool. So if you use CARES money for payroll, can you still get the tax credit for that period?
No, there's no, I mean, what CARES money? I mean, there's, if
From
it
a
was.
CARES grant, when the cities and the county.
Oh.
Yeah, see, that's what they meant.
Well, I'm not sure if the form is going to prevent you from doing that, but that would be what they're considering as double dipping.
Yep.
When they talk about the PPP, you don't get a tax credit for using from the government to use the government's money to pay for it. So as a general rule, I'm just going to say that there's no intention. I don't know if you're going to be able to fill out a form and make that happen, but that's not the intention.
Okay, so here's someone that's looking into expanding to a new storefront. Good for you. Is there an SBA loan that they can apply for to help with the expenses related to opening?
Yes, come and see me.
Okay.
Yeah, there's we can look at and again, so there's really no SBA loan. It's an SBA backed loan. That makes it easier for your lender, to lend to you, because, the SBA is guaranteeing, a big chunk of that. But again, there's like so many variables in that, that'd be great just to meet with you.
Okay, I think I know the answer to this one, but I'll let you tell them. My small business requested a PPP last year and got $538. Can they apply for this new round?
No. I'm sorry. It's first draw only. And the reason is because if they haven't applied by now, we know it's the, people in the most underserved areas, that never got the memo, and are not, not big businesses. And, you know, for that reason, they knew, you know, that this was going to make a difference, and these were not going to end up being big amounts. So sorry if you've already got one. And the other thing is, you know, because people are saying, wait, you know, I've applied for my second draw or for my first draw, and I didn't get this, you know, because the interim final rule literally just came out yesterday. And so for the people who applied for the first time last week, if your bank didn't hold it for you, and you're unfortunately not getting it, because it wasn't, this rule wasn't live until yesterday.
Mhm.
So, and you can contact your bank and say, is there any way you can get out of this? But once it's submitted, you know, it's the old rules, unless you know, your bank submitted it after this interim final rule came out.
Jamie, will they be able to apply for second draw though?
No,
No?
because there was last year's PPP and there's this year's PPP. And so you can't, there's not two per year, two per, you know, business. It was just, if you applied last year, great. And then there's another round available with slightly different rules, you know, this year. And if you didn't apply last year, you can still apply this year under, you know, more lenient rules. But
on the 10th or after 2 p.m. on the 9th, if they got one last year, they can apply for their second draw.
well, they can apply now, but their lender, you know, would probably be holding it, because they're, you know, they're supposed to, they have this 2-week exclusionary period, or whatever they called it, just to focus on these small businesses. And so your bankers, they're all really smart and on top of this stuff, and they're educating me as much as I'm sharing anything with them. So, you know, you're working with your banker too, so they'll make sure.
Okay.
So that was the question I was trying to ask. So they're not, I mean, like this person that only got $500, they can still apply later for more.
Oh, yeah, they can put in an application at any time, but it won't be, you know, submitted until.
Okay, cool.
And it won't be under the first draw.
Right,
Rule.
it'll be a second draw.
Okay, and this person that was asking about the second draw says they're having issues with their bank getting a portal to apply. I would say they just need to contact their bank directly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they should be directed by, and again, you know, if it's because you can't find anyone to talk to at that bank, that's a sign. And I'm saying, go to your local banks, folks. And if you can, you know, the best sign that you're gonna be able to get what you need from them is the fact that you can call them on the phone and ask.
Yeah. So if someone suspects they might be eligible for that extra idle advance, what would be in the subject line in their junk mail? Do we know?
That would have been a good thing for me to take a look at, because I think somebody forwarded me their email, but since I didn't get it, but I don't know. I would try SBA and EIDL, and well, EIDL ought to be good because.
Yeah, you would think so. If someone has.
Well, here's the thing. Can I back up for a second and just say, if you applied for the EIDL advance when they said there were still funds available, and you got 0 to 9,000, you will be getting an email. I mean, you will have an email, you know, already, as far as I'm concerned. I think, you know, all that happened last month.
Okay.
But the question is, and fill it out, like I said, no matter if you think, you know, if you're on Fjord Drive with your water view and you're now low income, so fill that thing out.
Okay, Matt says it came from Targeted Advance at SBA.
Oh,
thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, I mean, you can't, that's awesome. That you can't be more clear than that.
All right.
But again, you know, people didn't know to expect it. So.
Well, you know, there's a lot of things we didn't know what to expect the last couple of years. So just kind of goes with the flow, right? I have not been active in my business since the start of COVID in March 2020, living on my savings. How can I get financial aid and restart my business?
Well, I mean, you know, all the programs that were mentioned here, I mean, there's a long-term loan to the EIDL, Economic Impact Disaster Loan. You know, and if you are able to restart it and, you know, apply for a PPP, but I don't have anything in my pocket other than the fact that we know, and I don't, you know, I can't vouch that you'll qualify or not, but the Working Washington round 4 is coming up this month. But other than that, it's, you know, what I just showed on this, you know, on the slides. And again, feel free to give me a call and, you know,
Yeah.
talk more.
When the PPP and EIDL parts of the CARES Act were first implemented in 2020, this individual didn't get an EIDL grant, but instead had to take a loan. Later, they got a PPP that was 1/6 of the EIDL loan amount. To be honest, I'm not really happy about having to take that loan, but it was the only option available. Will there be any options for relief in situations like this person who is self-employed?
I'm not sure what the question is in that.
I think they want to figure out a way to get rid of the loan and have a forgivable loan. They need to talk to you.
Yeah, that's outside. I'm not, I have no magic there, but, you know, I'm happy to talk.
Okay, how do you know if you're in a low income area?
There was a policy
There's a policy map, right?
well, but here's what I would say. We were given another map before this policy map.
Oh, geez.
And so I'll tell you in general that where it showed was that, and I think because I actually had to ask someone else that might include all of tribal land. In Kitsap County, we had some various opinions on that, but it was parts of, you know, it was like downtown Paulsbo, and good chunks of Bremerton and Port Orchard and Bangor, it looked like. But anyway, again, I would just not even think twice because it's changed once, you know, already, you know, the map did. And so I would just apply, let them turn you down, because then if they make it wider, you know, then you've applied, you're in the queue.
So somebody just put SBA forgivable loans, and I believe they are referencing that as the PPP. There are no other loans that are forgivable at this point, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, the EIDL was it was an advance. It was yeah, you didn't have to pay that back. But yeah, so thank you, Terry, for putting in that policy map. And again, like I'm a little, you know, my only problem with putting out the policy map is just like I said, because if you decide yourself you don't qualify, then if they decide to make that broader, you're not in the queue. So I would just apply.
Okay, got to keep moving because we have like 7 minutes left.
And I mean, if you guys can, I can keep going if people want to stay and answer.
Okay, this person says, I received my PPP money the first round back in early May or thereabouts in 2020. So does that mean they only have 10 months from the date the funds were dispersed to apply for forgiveness? They've been told things like wait until the new forgiveness application comes out and lots of back and forth. My bank recently took down the forgiveness application, so not sure what to make of it all. Well,
your date cast in stone is 10 months after the end of your the period you could use the funds. And so at most people kind of defaulted last year to the 6 months or 24 weeks. And so it's 24 weeks plus 10 months. And so again, at any point where you think that you clearly have all your documentation to get full forgiveness, and especially if it's under $150,000, you know, go ahead and apply, but talk to your lender. If you're having problems, get in touch with me.
Okay, so for this new specialty period or whatever they call it for the PPP, do they
special people's period?
Do we need to show that we had a 25% decrease in revenue in 2020?
Is it 25 or 30 off the top of my head? But yeah, you do whatever it. Let's see, because there's different ones for different things right now. Because for the targeted EIDL, it's 30%, I think, but 25%. But it's a quarter in 2019 compared to the same quarter in 2020, and you can pick the quarter. So,
oh, that's good.
Yeah.
For the employee.
Thank you, Megan Murphy.
Woohoo! Thank you for having some bankers on the line, right?
Yeah. I know, I'll just sit back.
So when you're counting the employees, do you count yourself, the owner, as one of the employees?
Yeah,
So,
because there was just no other easy way to do it, because you have your sole proprietors and single person LLCs. Yep, count yourself as the employee. So
I think we answered this before. Do you use only your 2019 numbers in figuring the loans? There were differences in adjusted income between the 2 years, and 2018 would be better and more accurate.
sorry, it's 2019 is the base year. Because that was pre-COVID. So that was, if you weren't doing as well in 2019, well, then COVID had nothing to do with it. So, the idea is to get you back up to at least your just pre-COVID standard.
Okay. So if you applied last time and received more than 10,000, is there anything to apply for this time?
What are we talking about?
PPP. So if you're in your 2020 application, you got 10,000 or more.
For the PPP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should they go ahead and apply for their second draw?
Well, yeah, because you're still going to use the same numbers, the 2019, because again, if you're doing better in COVID, the Paycheck Protection Program is not intended for you. However, I think you can use 2020, but again, it kind of is not the point. So most people, it's really easy to fill out the second draw as long as they can document whatever the other little changes were there, but because you just use your 2019, get the same amount.
Okay. Second. Brenda, we put her contact information in the chat, and we will have the PowerPoint loaded up later today and the last slide has that as well. Or you could always just look up via your search engine, Kitsap SBDC. Many ways to find how to reach Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can just email us and we'll tell you.
I get a lot of referrals from y'all.
So Jeff is asking, there were some SBA loans mentioned on one of the first screens. What were they? So the non-COVID related programs.
504, 7A, and microloans, but I don't know anyone that's had a microloan, and sometimes they don't mention microloans, but the SBA does, so I just put it in there. But those are typical, 504s and 7As are typical loans for small businesses, buying or redoing, doing the TI for a new business or something. But anyway, come and talk to your lender or come and talk to me.
Okay, and Teresa is answering the question for the individual asking about the Bainbridge Island grants that will open next Friday. So anonymous attendee who's asking again about the more than 10,000, please just reach out to Jamie.
I don't get the more than 10,000.
Yeah.
They're talking about the EIDL advance.
They don't specify. No, they're talking about PPP. Because they're saying, I thought you said if you got more than 10,000 PPP last time, you could not apply for more.
That's the, what? No, I don't know. I don't know what that's in reference to, but 10,000, the only point of reference for me is the EIDL advance, that you got, for a brief second in time, everyone who applied got $10,000, and then they said, no, we don't have enough money. So then they changed it and said, everyone who applies gets $1,000 times the number of employees up to a maximum of 10,000. And then they ran out of money, last summer. So they're going back now.
Okay, and I'm 2 minutes from when Joe said to kick it over to him. This is the last question. I understand you need to put number of employees on the date of your PPP application. What number do you use if you're currently closed as a restaurant, but plan on opening again?
I am going to say, just come and talk to me, because I'm not, if you aren't, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure enough to give you an answer. I'd want to ask more questions. So I'm just gonna say, give me a call.
Okay, Joe.
Thanks. And Jamie or Kathy, can I ask you one last time to put Jamie's email address in the chat, or the best way to get a hold of her, because she's the best resource. So Kitsap SBDC at wwu.edu. Look, I'm going to wrap quick, and I think the truth is you need to reach out to Jamie. You need to talk to your local lender. And in the absence of talking to your local lender, you need to talk to a Kitsap lender. We heard good things about Kitsap Credit Union helping members and non-members. We heard Peninsula Credit Union was helping. We also heard good things about Heritage Bank. And although I don't think they're here, look, it's important that you get the financial resources you need. We're back next month. We're going to talk about Kitsap's broadband future with the general manager of the Public Utilities District. Bruce Kendall, if you're there, let us know. Just a quick word on what's going on. Okay, not sure if Bruce is there.
I'm here, Joe.
He's here. Is the mountain out, Bruce?
The mountain is out and we're ready to invest. Greetings from Pierce County. Great information. I just want to thank all the businesses out there who are employing people and keeping the economy going. We're seeing it here in Pierce County too. Long way to go, but there has been progress. So appreciate the partnership at Kitsap and Pierce counties.
Cheers, Bruce. We appreciate working with you. And so folks, the big news. So there were some questions about a Bainbridge Grant. Here's what's going on. That grant will open on March 12th. There will be plenty of information that was misreported in the Bainbridge Island, I forget the name of the newspaper, but we're opening that to applications on March 12th. And then there will be more grant support coming from Washington State as we head into April, is what that appears to be. KEDA will be all over it. We'll be all over communicating it. And you're going to hear a lot more from us. So please keep your eyes peeled for emails from KEDA. Monitor our social media feeds. Watch us at kitsapbda.org. Thank you so much. And we'll talk to you soon. Appreciate you, Kitsap. Talk to you later.